We'll be talking about conditional statements and loops today. And yesterday we talked about methods because I wanted us to start building using methods. That's why we discussed about that. So I will quickly create a package, call it conditional statements. And then another one, call it loops. So if we get to loops today, I'll build just a fun game, we'll build a fun game like a guess game where you get people to guess and stuff like that. We can do the same thing with conditional statements actually, but it will just be a one-off thing, like you put a number and then the code runs and it ends. So but loop helps us to keep iterating until the person gets the right number. So let's do conditional statements. Okay. A conditional statement it's an easy one. I know the people here, they have at least basic understanding of programming. So you can tell me what a conditional statement is. Anyone? Kosi, what is a conditional statement?
Simply put, conditional statements is a block of code that allows the program to perform a specific task based on whether the certain requirement is met or true or false.
Nice. That's a good one. So it's basically a code or a block of code that helps or makes that helps the system make a decision, right? So you want your system to behave in a certain way, but you don't want it to behave like that all the time. That's when you now use a conditional statement that say, okay, if this thing happens, that's when I want you to do this. So your definition is correct. Does any other person have like another definition too? Or we can just go ahead and start. Okay, no answers. So since we all understand what a conditional statement is in Java, let's do our first thing, public static main method, and then we'd do public static void. Let's check numbers or something. So because we're expecting a number, we have to do this number. So in Java, this is how we do define an if statement. It's an if statement. So if, of course, then your condition comes in here. Condition comes in here. Then the body of your condition or the requirements you want, the things that you want, the action you want your code to have, or let's say code behavior when the condition is met, right? And also another thing, we have you remember when we were talking about the data types, I mentioned something about itinerary operators. We also have that too. Sorry, hold on. Sorry, someone was speaking and was it was interrupting or distracting me. So we talked about what itinerary operator is, and that one too can be used to, just like we are using this guy to make checks. So itinerary operators, we do it this way. So you give your condition, then use this question mark, the value that you want it to, what you want it to do if it's true. If true, then this colon, then value if false, right? So your condition, you want this to happen. If it happens, it should do this. If it doesn't happen, it should now do this. That's what an itinerary operator is. So we would explore both of them. This, I believe we should be able to do these things today. So now we want to check a specific number. Let's say if a number passed is greater than 10 or something. So basically, that case, we just do our if statement. If number is greater than 10, if number is greater than 10, we should just print out. Oh, why does this thing keep support? We should say, oh, yeah, number is greater than 10. If I run this code, will it print?
No, I don't think so, because the statement is not complete.
It's not complete. Which part is not complete?
The other condition. What happens if the number is less?
It doesn't really matter. It will end. The statement will just end.
Okay.
The statement will just end. It will not print. Like if I give a number and then the number is 10, it should print now and end. But there's a reason why it shouldn't even print. I know Gbemi should know the answer. Kosi, do you want to try out? Who else joined the call? Okay, just the three of you. See the number of persons that accepted this and they never show up. Wow. Okay. So, Kosi, do you want to give it a crack? Why I think if I run this code, will it print? First of all, will it print? Do you think it will print?
I don't think it will print.
Okay, so why?
Well, you haven't
okay.
passed the number. That's the only thing that comes to my mind, to be honest. Just the fact that you haven't passed the number.
Okay, so if I, what were you saying? Hello, fine. You wanted to interrupt.
We've not gotten the input.
Yeah, Gbemi, oh, sorry. Why did I keep calling you Gbemi? Sorry, Gbemi.
Sir?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's actually in a particular, you've not called it like you've not.
Exactly. That was what I was expecting. If I run the code, it won't print because I haven't called this method, right? Until I call the method, and then of course, like Kosi rightly said, pass this number, it won't take it will just run, it won't fail because the code, the syntax and everything is correct, but it won't just print anything, even though we're expecting it to print this line here. So for us to check that our implementation or the behavior that we want is correct, we should call the method, and how we call it is just the name, because we have this guy as a static method. If we remove this static, we have to remember yesterday, who's this person that keeps joining, and I would need him to, has he joined? I'll need him to provide his email. So I would, what happened? Did he leave or I canceled it? I don't know. Maybe you should join again. Okay. Theo Daniels, please, can you share your email so I add you to the meeting? You can share it in the group if you're in the group, or you can share it here. I don't know. So I add you to the meeting link, so it doesn't keep when you join, it doesn't keep asking us to accept you or approve your request. Okay, so if we remove this guy, we will now need to get access to this method using an object of the class, but that's not the behavior we want. So if we give it 10, okay, can you share it in the group, or maybe Bemi, can you share it in the group? If he's not in the group, please, I'll do that later after the call, or you can remind me at the end of the session. I'll do it on the call. Anyone? So
Okay.
yeah, if I give it this number 10, what do you think will happen? Anyone? Hello, guys, come on. I'm not alone on this call.
It won't end.
Why?
Okay, so you said if the number is greater than 10.
Exactly.
That's how
So it won't print. So if the number has to, based on what we are giving it here, the number has to be higher than 10. If it's just 10, it will just run but not print anything. So you remember during our first class, the data type and the data type class, I also mentioned some of the operator symbols or signs that we use in programming generally, but since in context we are using it in Java, so we have to do greater or equals. So this means even if it's 10, still do it. If it's greater than 10, still tell me that the number is greater than 10. But if we do this equals here, that means these are our statements in quotes. Even though it prints, these are our statements in quotes is false because 10 is not greater than 10. So our requirements here should remain like this. So if we want it to print any number that is greater than 10, we can pass a number that is higher than 10. That way, our statement will be true. I don't know why my system is slow these days. I'll have to restart it after the class. This normally doesn't take time. So yes, 88 is greater than 10. So this is basically how you do your check. Then there is another conditional statement in Java called a switch. Oh, before we get to that, of course, it has else. There is an else if you pass your number and then say south number is less than 10. Then there is an else which you just say south. Let's say what can I don't give a higher number, something like that. Give a higher number. Okay. Okay. Let me do something. If number is greater than 10, and remember we talked about, yeah, and number is less than 100. So let's say given shoot, what did I press? Given number higher than 100. So remember what I mentioned. Even though I said I was going to send you guys something, decision trees to let, I couldn't find it. I actually searched, I couldn't find it. So this thing here means these two statements have to be true. The number has to be greater than 10 and also less than 100 for this guy to be true, right? But since we are doing an else if that is also checking if it's a number that is less than 10, that one will only be true if we pass a number that is less than 10. Then this will only run if it checks that this number here is greater than 10, but maybe higher than 100. It will now tell us that the number is higher than 100. We can try that out, 101, and run the code. So this is the, will I say, the ideal way of writing if statements in Java. But I have seen people that do their if statements like this. Let me just do public void. I don't know what to call this guy. Test. Let's say int a, int x. So they do their if statements like this. If this one, take action. If, like, they do it with some people do it without this. It's accepted, but that's not the ideal way to do your if statement, because number one, it can be confusing, because if someone is reading your code, they'll be like, okay, so what are you checking? This guy is totally on its own. This other guy is also on its own. But it's confusing just looking at it. Just imagine you are checking something like multiple things in a line and you keep writing if. That's why this guy is there. So you can, and also always use a curly bracket to mark an end to your block of code, just to improve the readability of your code. This is best practices. It's not that you have to, if you don't do it, nothing will happen, but it's best practice. Then there is something in Java called switch statements. So switch statement is also a way Java makes statements. Also a way Java makes its decision, just like if statements. But now it's more, will I say, more elegant than if statement. So how do you define your switch statement? So you use the keyword switch. If you remember, when I wrote only switch, it gave me an error here because this guy is a keyword, right? It's a keyword in Java. So you use switch, then of course your expression, or expression or condition. I don't know, anyone, you can just select condition here, or expression slash expression. Then under it, you can now do your block of code. Pass your case. There's a keyword called case. So you do case, then your value, end it with colon. You now do your action here, or the things that you want to happen. Is it confusing? Does anyone have any question? Does anyone have any question? So the same thing we did here, let's do the same thing with switch statements. So we say if X, so now we say case, in our case now it should be case 10, case 10. Okay. If it's case 10, like, which means if it's the number is 10, you now print given number is 10. Then if it's another one, if it's another number, if it's 100, we'll say the same given number is 100 or whatever. That's how it's given number is 100. Yeah, given number is 100. This is just a more will I say, more improved way of writing your if statements. Do you have any question? Then there is another thing on this guy. There is something called default. Yes, so default is when it doesn't meet any of the criterias. Let's want it to be here, just proper formatting. Let's say given number not 10 or 100. So you want a still, you are in our own case here, in our use case, if the number given is not 10 and is not 100, we just want it to tell us that this number is not it's either is not 10 or 100. Do we have any questions? Anyone, do you have any questions? So run this guy. If you have questions, you can ask, or please. So that means everything is clear. All right, so let's do an example for ternary operator, and then we'll move over to loops, because we also work with conditions in loop while we're looping. So we say public static void ternary operator. Ternary operator. So geez, what is wrong with you? So we want to say print a number. We want to print a number. So we want to print something, let's say results. We want to print the result of a statement. So we want to check results equals number x, not number. Okay, has to be in this x greater, if x is greater than 10, what do? We say given number is greater than 10. Oh, this guy does, then if it's not, we should also just say the number is given number is less than 10 or whatever. So this is how your ternary operator looks. And then we'll print the results. Is it confusing? Do you have any questions?
None here, sir.
Okay. If I Tio, that was it Tio that joined, right? Yeah. Tio Daniels.
Yeah, I don't have any questions.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm following.
All right. So this guy, ternary operator, if you pass a value that is greater than 10. I repeat, I have personal beef with this guy here. It's personal because it's confusing. I only use it when I think it's absolutely necessary. Like maybe when a value is coming in and I want to check for that specific, instead of doing my if statement for just one place, I want to check if it's null and pass a particular value. Instead of just doing that, that's the only instance I have personally used it. If I want to properly check something, you will see me using more of this guy and switch statements. Then that reminds me, nobody submitted the assignment from yesterday.
I did.
Yeah, good evening. I'll do that tomorrow. I didn't actually know the good evening first of everyone. I
Oh,
didn't
okay,
know
this is your first. Okay, I'll share the link to the video so you watch what we covered and then.
I
So
submitted mine.
second, no, what you submitted is the first one. You know you didn't join the first
And
class.
second one. The second
Second
one
one.
was as well.
Oh,
Second
okay.
one was as well.
I didn't check properly. I'll check now. I'll check after the class.
Okay.
So this is me. I just have personal beef with this guy. So if you want, you can use it, but it can be confusing sometimes.
Sorry, you said you have personal beef with ternary operators using
So,
ternary.
yes, it can be confusing because it's confusing sometimes.
I know, but I feel it's only when you have like you're just trying to check for a particular condition, right?
Yes,
If you
yeah,
have
that's
if you have multiple conditions, it's not advisable to use.
exactly. So even when using it for what's it called? For just one condition, it has to be, maybe let's say I am trying to set a value, but in like list of 10 other values, I want to just check if this particular one is null. Like I don't want to pass a null value. I want to pass a default, maybe a default number or something to it. That's in that case, yeah, that's the case I use. But say, okay, I am writing a code that I want to check do proper checking and maybe through an exception and stuff like that. I personally don't fancy using it. So that's a personal beef. Maybe, like I said, my teacher then has his own personal biases. Maybe it's rubbed off on me. I'm not saying it has to rub off on you what I'm doing, but that's just me. Okay, so loops in Java. Loops in Java. So Java has multiple ways of doing loops. Unlike other programming languages, I think Java and maybe C or some C language has just a loop they call do while loop, but we'll get to that. So there are multiple ways Java do their looping. So there's a while loop, there's do while loop, there's for loop, the legendly for loop. There's also for each, which is will I say sort of an advanced way of using for loop for each loop. So those are the type of loops that we have in Java. Then when you now get to maybe all these streaming APIs, it's still in a sense looping over, iterating over like streams and filters and what's not. They are looping over something and performing further checks and stuff. So streaming APIs, and maybe when we get to that, when we get to that, probably would get to that streaming APIs and all. They are still under the hood, sort of looping over item that you give them, but you don't have to now clearly make a statement, maybe for loop or while loop and all the rest of it. So how now what we'll go through is how to define these guys, and then if we have time, which I don't think we can do that, we'll build a small game, a guess game, So public static void main, and let's do public static void while loop while loop. So for while loop, you have to be careful because it's more likely to lead to infinite loop if you don't maybe add a statement that ends your condition. So because if you are doing your while loop, let's say for example, we want a while loop that says that counts from 1 to like 10 or something, right? So if we do something like this, while count is less than this, just count, right? This. Oh, what did I do? If I run this code, it will go into infinite loop. Let me show you guys. Oh, it will no, of course, it will even go out. This is not even what I wanted to show, but it will go.
Is
Not the reason I
if it
even.
is less than zero now.
Yeah. So based on, I wanted to do if it's less than zero, but now I have to end it. Sure. So even if I do, if it's less than zero, it will still go. This is what I wanted to do. Less or equal zero. So ball or equal. Why is it not? Okay, it's building. Well, this okay. It's no, this one will not work. I wanted to. If it's 10 less than zero, no, so it won't run. Yeah, so I want to do like I want to do like reduction. I want to check something. Okay, if it's less than, while it's less than, okay, let's do this guy 20, high number 20. So if it's less than 10, it should keep printing. So if we run this, it will get into the infinite loop issue. Why? Why count is less or equal 10? Oh. Why count is greater than or equal 10? Yes. Yeah. So why I wanted to show this is because sometimes you might make this mistake. We are supposed to be removing a number from this guy. So it will now get to a point where this thing will be false. So people make that mistake. I think I made the mistake a lot when I was learning. So you do your reduction. If you remember on our data type, this thing, we talked about this, where is it again? Decrement stuff. I think we talked about it.
It's up.
We did, yeah? Okay.
Up. That's it.
Where is it?
Down a bit. Yes, line 29.
Line 29. Oh, okay. Yeah. Yes. I was thinking like I listed it the same way I did these guys. Okay, so we talked about there's an increment symbol and then I will let's say symbol, yeah. And then there's a decrement. So this way you are making sure that this loop at some point is false. So when it's false, it goes out and then your code stops running. So it's, you see, immediately it gets to 10, it ends the loop because the 10 is not greater than 10, or is not greater than 10, so it just ends. Then for the do while loop, is there any question on this? Public static do while loop. For the do while loop, the do while loop is a kind of loop that runs at least once. It runs at least once. So if we have let's say int number, because let's say 1, and then we say do do this, pass the number, print this number while number is less than 10. So to avoid the infinite loop stuff, we have to increase the number here. But no matter what, even if we do this, even if we say this number is 20, we know it will not get to this condition, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, trying to run this code. Don't know why my system is slow. Oops. Oh, I didn't call the method. Copy this. Even though we know it will not meet this condition, like it won't repeat multiple times, and it runs this guy first. So it must run at least once when we are using do while loop. I can't think of an instance where I have used this in production application, right? I can't think of any instance I've used it, but it's there for a reason. I know it's there for a reason, but I've not used it. So for the we've done the while, covered the while loop. Does anyone have any question on this? Does anyone have question?
No.
All right. So for loop helps us to iterate, just like every other this thing. It helps us to iterate over items, right? So let's say we have an array list of items, an array list of say food items or something, and instead of this, we just straight up create them. Say we have this guy. Let's add our local dish, curry, rice, and the rest of them. So we create our for loop using the for keyword, right? So okay, I don't like the way it's suggesting these things. I wanted to type it out so it will help. So this string here is saying, okay, since we are looping through these guys, which is the food items, these things here, they are strings. So since we are trying to get each of the item that is coming from these food items, we have to declare our data type to match what is here. If we come here and say that our data type is integer, it will not work, because remember during our first class, I mentioned that Java is a strictly typed language. Whatever it has to match, whatever type you're expecting to pass into a variable, it has to match. So what we're literally doing is just saying, okay, give me all the items that is in this list. If we call this method and run it, it will print individually apple, banana, and pears and what's not. Let's try that. Then has anyone the resources I shared, there's a website I shared from one university in Finland. Has anyone started going through their documents, through their Java tutorials? Because there's a lot that Java has that has to do with Java that I am not going to cover, to be quite frank. Like if you know, we did not cover getting inputs values like we used to do. Like when I learned Java, well, that was one of the things that I was taught. But I am skipping them because I want to teach you guys, because I believe some of you have some level of knowledge of Java or programming generally. But I want to teach you guys what I think is relevant for you to be able to maybe start picking frameworks like Spring and what's not. So please go through that link I shared. It will be very helpful. One of the things that using the inputs, this thing will help you understand is to master this data type thing that Java is very keen on. Because if you're using a scanner, it's called the input. This thing is called a scanner. If you're using a scanner has a specific, for each data type you want to work with, it has its own specific type of input. This thing. Sorry, I want to plug my laptop. Yes. It has its own specific data type, and you have to pass that data type for you to work. So stuff like that will help you understand the multiple data types there is in Java. So please go over the article, not article, it's like actually a course, a full course. Go through it and then see what they have. It will be really helpful. And also when I was using that platform, then there's a code, a very simple code they shared. Then I was very sure that if you asked me, I was very sure that I was right in my answer, but because I wasn't paying attention to read the code line by line, I failed one of the quiz then. So I think you should also do that. Follow the quiz. It will help you to pay attention and read your code properly. Does that. So yeah, so we've been able to print this guy. 5 minutes. Can we do this? So I wanted us to build a guess game. Like I wanted us to build. Okay, there's still a lot to cover. I just checked my notes now. We've not talked about nested loop. We've not talked about loops with control statements. Okay, we'll continue on Tuesday. Let's just end here. So there are still other things that we'll talk in this loop. Then we'll build the game. Do you have any question based on what we covered today? Do you have any questions?
Yes, I have a question. Though it's not based off what we covered, but it's related to this. So I
Okay.
noticed for each project you create,
Mm.
you have an entry point, a main for each project.
Okay.
So it's
Yes.
always like that. More like once you create a project, you have to create a main.
No. That's why I have it like this, is because I want to run or call my methods within this class. If I have only one, main is like the entry points or how you call your code in Java. So if I have only one, let's say I have it only here, that means anytime I want to call these methods, I will have to I'll have to first of all create an object of that class in this main method and now call the method. So I am creating it here to just give me an easy access. It's not like that. If you are working with say if you work on a large project, you don't have to create it in every place. This is just for easy access.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right. Any other person?
Yeah. So what about you use for loop? What about for in loop? Is it part of what we'll be covering in the next
So
class?
yeah, this is actually
Yeah,
for
because
in.
the way
Yes,
sorry.
this is actually like for loop. But there's a for in which is normal for I in this one. I would also cover that, yes.
All right, no
And
problem.
also the nested loop. I forgot that should have been the first one. That's the ideal way to go about it before this guy. But in the next class, I'll cover that, then cover the nested loop and the rest of it.
All right, no problem.
All right. So an assignment on this guy, switch statement. Use it to, do you know this song? 12 days of Christmas, this thing. 12 days of Christmas are what my people got for me or something. I can't remember. Do you guys remember that song? On the third
My
day
true
of
love goes to me.
Christmas.
My true love goes to me.
So I want you to use switch statements. For each day, you print the gifts for that day. You understand?
Yeah.
So let's say this is day 12.
I beg, talk am again.
Okay, so I said this 12, is it 12 days of Christmas? Let me check. I'm not
Yeah,
so
it's
sure.
12. It's actually 12.
Yeah, 12. Yeah. So that song, 12 days of Christmas, the gift they give. So let's say day 12. What gift did they say this person got on day 12? You make it run. You use switch statements. Then you come down to day 11. Show us what the gift for day 11 is. That way you go down. Just the way it is on the song. I am not sure if I am getting it correct. I will share the link for the song. I will look for it, maybe the Wikipedia page or something, and share in the group. And yeah. Does it make sense?
Even
Yeah,
if
sure.
it's Java, it makes sense.
Say again.
If it is Java, it makes sense.
Yeah, it's Java we are teaching. No, don't go and send me Python. Don't go and send me Python. It's Java we are teaching. So let me stop sharing and also end the recording. So Theo, I will add your email. So next time